Welcome to Blue Talks.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Northwestern. I'm honored and excited to be here. I'm thrilled. I can tell you that being on this stage at Northwestern, my high school teachers and some of my college teachers would be shocked. They're probably flipping over in their graves if they knew I was speaking at Northwestern University, and I'll tell you why in a little bit. A little bit more of a bio. I'm Carver Richards, and I'm 81 years old. I've been practicing law for 51 years. I've been married for 56 years. I've got 4 successful daughters, 15 grandchildren, and I'm very happy about them, and I'm very happy about my own life. I have, as a trial lawyer, of course, I graduated from law school, but I've been a trial lawyer for 57 years, and I'm still practicing law. I was telling somebody earlier that I have a criminal sexual conduct case, which is a felony, and in Minnesota, if they're found guilty, they spend 144 months in prison. I think that I've been a successful trial lawyer, but it always wasn't that way. It wasn't that way at all. I started out in high school. If I wasn't at the bottom of my class in high school, I was near the bottom of my class in high school. And I graduated in northern Minnesota from high school, which is the heart of the Iron Range, which is the heart of the iron mining industry. And because of my high school production, and because the mines were flourishing, my dad said, and my high school counselors all told me, and my teachers, based on my record, that the thing I should do is get a job in the mines because they're good jobs and they're good benefits, medical and retirement and so forth, and that's what I should do because obviously I wasn't college material. They told me I wasn't. But I thought, well, I think I'm going to go to college anyway. Maybe that was just a blip. My high school career, maybe I can do better. So I went to St. John's University in Collegeville, Minnesota as a freshman, and of course, I flunked out. I was called into the Dean of Students office, Father Dunstan Tucker, at the end of the year, and he said, Mr. Richards, with all due respect, don't come back here next year. You are expelled. The faculty have decided to expel you, and you should find a different place to go to school, if that's what you're going to do. Well, so I went home, I was 19. I went home to break the news to my father, who was a Notre Dame graduate. This is his ring right here. Notre Dame graduate, to tell him that, Dad, I got kicked out of college. And he was very disappointed because I was the oldest of 9 children and expected to set an example. So when I came home, I didn't set an example. I let my father down, I let my family down, I let all my relatives down, I let myself down. And not only that, thinking about the pressure on my dad, my mother had died. I got home from St. John's, kicked out, and a month later or so, my mother died. Talk about pressure, talk about trauma, and I probably was the guy that my dad was kind of depending on to help him out. Well, he said, well, what are you going to do now? And I said, well, Dad, you were a United States Marine. I'm a bad student, kicked out of college. I'm going to go in the Marine Corps. You were in the Marine Corps, I'm going in the Marine Corps. My dad was an officer in the Pacific in World War II. So I went in the Marine Corps. And I remember the flight, it was the first flight I was ever on, first airplane I was ever on. And I was really acting like a big shot. Keep in mind, I hadn't even been to boot camp yet, and I already thought I was a United States Marine. Well, So I was buying drinks on the plane. Get off the plane, the drill instructor's waiting for us, and there's where the intimidation began. Screaming at us, intimidating us, and I was as scared as I've ever been in my life. I can still feel it. And it didn't stop. It didn't stop. I went to the barracks. They were trying to gather a platoon, went to the barracks, and lights out, 10 o'clock. You're supposed to be in your bunk sleeping. I can remember being under my bunk in my skivvies on the cold linoleum floor, thinking about my mother, thinking about my father, thinking about my family, crying. I was crying on the floor. I did that for one night, and I did it for the next night. And finally, something struck me, and I think it's the epiphany, the epiphany of my life. You know, I said to myself, Carver, you have been a failure in high school, you've been a failure in college, and you're not going to be a failure again. You are going to get through boot camp, you are going to be a United States Marine, and you're going to be a good United States Marine, and your dad is going to be proud of you, and your family is going to be proud of you, and best of all, you're going to be proud of yourself. Well, I made it through boot camp. That wasn't easy. I got just a couple of stories, one of which is, just think about, and maybe raise your hand before I'm done. The first time we went to the PX, I had to buy a bottle of concentrated soap, Whisk. You know, I'm thinking, well, what did I buy Whisk for? We don't wash our own clothes. Think about why we bought Whisk. And then I couldn't do any pull-ups when I got to boot camp. I can remember trying to do pull-ups with the drill instructor standing next to me, yelling at me, calling me the lowest thing that you can be. They actually called it whale shit on the bottom of the ocean. You're lower than that, Richards. And here I am trying to pull myself up. He says, what are you doing, thinking about your mommy? He knew that my mother died. I could have got out of boot camp if I wanted to, because my mother died. And here's this guy intimidating me because of my mother. I mean, that continued for 4 months, but I made it through. I made it through boot camp. Now I'm a real Marine. I got a good assignment as a communications person, and I said to myself while I was there, I'm not going to be a teletype operator. I don't want to be a teletype operator. I want to be in charge of this comm center. And what do I have to do to become in charge of the comm center? You got to get some rank first, so I did. I made rank rather quickly when I was in the Marine Corps, and I qualified to become the comm center supervisor, and I'll be damned, I became the comm center supervisor. This is a kid who flunked out of college and was the worst student in the high school class. And I was in charge of that comm center for like 2 years through my career. Okay, so I get out, come home. My dad, you know, he still knows what kind of a student I am, but now I'm a United States Marine. He says, man, you can really get a good job now because you're a Marine in the mining company, in the mines. I said, Dad, thank you, but I think I can do better than becoming a United States Marine. I think I'm going to go to college. And he, can you imagine, shrugged his shoulders. Carver, you weren't the greatest student in high school. You got kicked out of college. Get a job. You're now 3 years behind everybody else that you were in high school with. If you go to college and if you make it, and I doubt that you will, he's nice about it, but he was stern. You're going to be another 4 years behind everybody else because my St. John's credits didn't transfer at all. Well, I went to college, and I got into the University of Minnesota, and of course I had to work, and I did work, and I worked for a road construction company, which is still in existence in the town that I live in, still active, just like I am. And I worked my way through, I worked at that construction company, got through college, walked across a stage like this for commencement, and I was thinking to myself, man, you can do anything. You graduated from college. I said, Carver, said it to myself, you can do anything you want to do. So I got home and my dad said, "Good job, Carver. I'm kind of surprised actually, but I'm very proud of you." And I had done such a good job at this construction company that they offered me a job as a superintendent of a crew. Good pay, good retirement, all that stuff. The company's still in business. If I stayed there, I'd probably be an owner of it by now. But I said, "Dad, thanks for the advice, but I made it through boot camp. I made it through college when everybody said I wouldn't. So I think I'm going to roll the dice one more time, at least one more time. And I don't want the job. It's a good job, but I'm going to roll the dice." "Well, what are you going to do, Carver?" "I want to be a lawyer." He said, "Carver, you got to go to law school. I mean, it's one thing to be a college graduate, which is really good, but you're not a real student. You don't go to medical school or business school or law school and barely graduate from high school and flunk out of college." And I said, "Well, I think I can do it." And so I enrolled in law school. And I got into law school in St. Paul, but I didn't have any money. I'm the oldest of 9 kids. My mother died, and so I had to work. And by that time, I had a family. I had a wife and a child. And I got into law school, and I can remember the first day or two of law school, everybody has an advisor. My advisor was Professor Walter Anastas, and I went into his office, and he looked at my grades, and he looked at me, and he said, Mr. Richards, I think he said, "Mr. Richards, I'm looking at your record here, and you're not going to make it in law school. 2/3 of the people that enter law school graduate. 2/3. He said, "Look to your right, look to your left, boom, both of them will be gone." Anybody know how many people that graduate from college graduate from law school? I was surprised. Of all the college graduates that go to law school, only 2.5% pass. Only 2.5% graduate. And he reminded me of that, and he said, "You're wasting our time, you're wasting your time, and you're going to fall behind, and you're not going to make it." And so I was in this law school, and I said, "Well, thanks for telling me that, Professor, because that's all I need, in addition to what I've already got, I think, to make me graduate from law school." And I remember I still remember these things so vividly. I can almost feel it in my bones. I remember sitting in class, and we got an assignment. And by the way, the law school I went to was 4 years as opposed to 2 or 3 at the University of Minnesota and other law schools. Ours was 4. And that's because we had to go to school at night, and we had to have a job in order to make it. So I went to school at night, 3 or 4 nights a week, 3 or 4 hours a night for 4 years. I worked full time, and I had a family. And by the time I finished law school, we had 3 kids. So I'm given the assignment, and I'm thinking, I never read this much stuff in so quickly. I had to get ready for the next week of class and be able to discuss the case. If you weren't able to discuss the case, you're really in trouble with the professor. And I forgot to tell you, I was on probation. When I got into law school, I think they let me into law school because I was a veteran Marine, and I was probably part of a quota program or something. We got to let so many servicemen in here, even though we know they're not going to make it. I was there on probation. Well, at the end of my first year, now consider the kind of student I am, at the end of the first year, I was in the upper 15% of my class. And I got off probation. I no longer was on probation. On probation, they can kick you out of the school for any reason at all if you flunk a test. But I ended up in the 15% of my class and graduated from law school. Well, that wasn't really the end of the story, because now you have to take the bar exam. So I am so accustomed. By that time, I'm so accustomed to failing, to not making the grade, but I took the bar exam, studied for 3 months intensely, probably 8 hours a day in order to pass this damn bar exam, and I flunked the bar exam. That means I got to start all over again and study for 3 more months, and even harder now, because I got to make sure I pass it. I know any number of people who flunked the bar exam that never took the bar exam again because they didn't want to study, they didn't want to spend the time, and they didn't want to flunk again. Well, I passed the bar exam. I've passed the bar exam, and I got an offer from a pretty good, still important law firm in Minnesota, which was kind of surprising considering my record. I mean, it wasn't that great, but I was a Marine, and I was a college graduate, and I was a law school graduate, to everyone's surprise. So I got a job, and I didn't know, if you don't even know where the bathroom is in the courthouse when you graduate from law school, let alone knowing how to do anything. And they said, we want you to be a trial lawyer. And I said, okay, what do you have to do to be a trial lawyer? They said, well, you got to go to court and try some cases. That's what you got to do. And so that's what I did. And I remember the first year or so of trying lawsuits. It was like horrible. I just got my rear end kicked every day. But I thought, you know what? If I can tough myself through boot camp and college and law school, I can get myself through this. So I studied about being a trial lawyer. I would go to the courthouse and watch other lawyers perform. And I finally got to be a trial lawyer. And I became a trial lawyer. There was a program in the state of Minnesota called the Leading Lawyer Program. And I was in the first class of leading lawyers in the state of Minnesota, if you can imagine. And we got there, and we were designated leading lawyers because our peers nominated us. I was in one of the first classes, and I've been A-rated and still am from early on in my career. So I'm cruising along, doing good, right? Everything's hunky-dory, and I'm making a good salary, more than I ever would have made at the construction company or in the mines. And my partners, so I'm 70 years old now, not now, but then. I'm 81 now. My partners came and said, Carver, you signed an agreement when you were 33. I became a partner when I was 33. I didn't even get a real job until I was 30. Marine Corps, college, law school. I'm 30 years old, so I signed an agreement 3 years later saying when I turned 70, I would resign from the law firm. Forgot all about it, of course. They came to me and reminded me, Carver, you signed an agreement and we expect you to leave when you're 70. I thought they were kidding me. Tried to talk them out of it, but I know why they want me to leave, because I was a number one, a big producer, and therefore I made probably a pretty big income, and they wanted to get rid of me. So, I think they thought that I would just fade away, like Douglas MacArthur said, old soldiers don't die, they just fade away. I think they thought I would just fade away and go to the lake where I live now and play golf and shuffleboard the rest of my life. Well, I said, I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna fade away. I'm not gonna go out the lake and play shuffleboard or play golf. So I went across the street and started by myself over again, 70 years old. And it was hard because I didn't have any support. I didn't have any secretary. All my clients were at my former law firm, so I had to go through all that again. Once again, I had to do that. But I did it, and now I'm 81, as I've said too many times. The last 2 years of my being a lawyer, I produced more money than I had the whole time per year per year when I was with my former law firm. And I expect to do better. While I was a lawyer, maybe 5 or 10 years ago, I thought to myself, I got to do something more. I mean, I was very accustomed to being a trial lawyer. Like I said, I still try cases. I probably tried more cases in my county, Northern Minnesota County, than any other lawyer in the county. Maybe it's because of my age, but nevertheless, they just don't try as many cases. I'm still trying cases. Okay, so how many people here, based on what I've said now, who do you think my favorite movie actor is? Anybody know? Who do you think my favorite movie actor is? Keep in mind, I'm 81 years old. My favorite actor, and it's not because he's an actor, it's not because he's a cool guy, it's because of his life story, and it's fictional. My favorite movie my favorite movie character is Rocky Balboa. Rocky Balboa is my favorite. Rocky Balboa came out in 1976. I remember going to the movie with my wife. I'll tell you why. I don't know how much time I got left, but I remember going to the movie with my wife. And her telling me, "Carver, I love you dearly, but if Rocky Balboa gives me a call, I don't know. I might answer." How am I doing here? Okay, so I'm almost done. Anyway, Rocky Balboa, and then the other thing if you've never watched the Rocky movies, watch the Rocky movies. Watch Rocky. Watch round 14 in the first Rocky movie. Rocky in round 14 reminds me of what I went through in order to get through law school. Rocky was on the mat, bleeding, beat up, but he crawled up the side of the ropes and got up there again and finished the fight. His handler, whose name is Mickey, his manager, Rocky said, "Cut him." He meant cut his eyes because he couldn't see out of his eyes. It's fiction, but it becomes so real to you. He is the epitome of guts and resilience and persistence and perseverance. He gives a speech to his son on the street in front of Adrian's restaurant in the 6th version of Rocky. And I've got this, in my office, I've got a picture of Rocky with the speech that he gave his son. And I can't remember, sometimes I can remember it, but I can't now because I'm a little nervous. But the speech is, life is not easy, life will knock you down, and life will keep you on the pavement, it'll keep you on the asphalt, it'll keep you on the mat forever. And it's not how hard you hit. It's not how hard you hit. It's how hard you can get hit and take it and get up over and over and over again and be knocked down. I don't know. I don't know when it's going to happen, but I know it's going to happen again. I know that one more time, I'm going to get knocked to the mat and I'm going to have to give up, and I'll get up, and I guarantee you, as much as I stand here, that I will get up. Thank you very much.